An investigation is underway this morning after some unusual flying by Navy pilots.
It happened in Lake Tahoe last week involving 2 Navy helicopters from North Island.
News 8's Adrian Moore is live at North Island with the latest on the investigation. Adrian.
Yeah, Nichelle and Dan, good morning to you. Well, those 2 Navy pilots are now grounded this morning after they had their MH-60s seen hovering over Emerald Bay. Now, one of those aircraft actually touched down into the water. It's an incident that was all captured on camera and something the Navy is now looking very closely at. Oh my gosh! This amateur video shows a wild scene over Emerald Bay in Lake Tahoe as 2 Navy helicopters from North Island hover over the water. You can see one lose control and crash down into the lake, then regains airspeed and altitude and then flies away. Navy officials wouldn't go on camera, but a spokesperson tells News 8 the MH-60 Romeo helicopters were part of the Helicopter Maritime Strike 41 Squadron and were on their way back to the Lemoore Naval Air Station to refuel after taking off from Mather Air Force Base near Sacramento, where they had taken part in an air show. The Navy spokesperson wouldn't comment on how many people were aboard the 2 aircraft at the time, but says they typically hold a pilot, co-pilot, and an air crewman. No one on board was injured, and the aircraft later landed at the Lake Tahoe airport. He says the MH-60s are an anti-submarine warfare helicopter that are used for locating, tracking, and potentially submarines. When asked what will happen to the pilots involved, the Navy spokesperson told us, quote, "The pilots have been grounded and could face disciplinary action. They could also go before the Field Naval Aviator Evaluation Board and could ultimately lose their flying qualifications depending on the findings of the investigation." Now, both of the aircraft were damaged in this incident. In talking with the Navy spokesperson, he said they classified this as a Class C mishap. That means that damage is more than $50,000, but less than $500,000. Nichelle and Dan, now back to you.
Adrian, I know when it comes to these training exercises, there are certain areas and routes that these pilots take. Is Lake Tahoe a typical training area for the Navy?
Well, it's a good question, Nichelle, and it's something we certainly asked the Navy spokesperson when we talked to him earlier this morning. He didn't get into many specifics, but he did tell us that the Lake Tahoe area in general was not a normal training area for them.
Adrian Moore live at North Island.